weight divide. So this is one of the new modules in Kronos. This is nothing but it's just going to split the week into say if you want to divide a week to process different zones and different payrolls, you can create a work week divide. Like for the same week you can have two different types of work rules or zones or overtimes. So this setup we don't use much, but that's the usage of this. We've already seen fixed rules. What fixed rules are, we are determining what type of pay period we want, so that is fixed rules. We'll see what processing order is. So 1 second. Okay, so this processing order is again an optional component that can override the default order in which your R types are processed by the application. So the relation between combination, processing, and paycode distribution is as follows. So you have three things here. One is the processing order determines the order in which the R types. You will get the recording for this session, right? I will add, so you can take notes from this later. So three things. Relationship between combination rule, processing order, and the paycode DISTRA and the paycode distribution. So this goes as follows. So it is the processing order So when you create a processing order, basically what is happening is this processing order is going to tell the system in which order the R types should be processed. So your combination rule next comes into play. It's going to tell the system how to pay the hours once they're processed, and at last the pay code distribution is going to determine the pay codes in which your hours will be paid. So it goes like this. So here you have your zones and overtimes and your work rules. Sorry, yeah, your shift zone rules, your factor time, rest between shifts, right? So probably you can select one overtime and one zone. You'll send it here. So there are two columns, your total first and your total next. 1 second. Yeah, so this total chronologically column, this is the default way the system is going to process each and every hour in the order. In this order only it's going to process. If your overtime is found first, it's going to process the overtime and then it's going to come to your zone. So all hours help reach the daily and weekly overtime goals. So in you can say this like the hours are processed as they occur in time, not as they appear in the list. Okay, so in total first column, so if you move a hour type to this column, it will always help the employee reach the weekly or their pay period overtime goals. So the hard types that should be, these are the hard types that should be processed first. If there is more than one, the first is processed before the second and so on. So this order will be followed here. So you can also say I want my zone to be processed first and then my overtime. So it's going to do that in that order. So in the total last, so if you add an R type to this, this is not going to help your weekly or pay period overtime goals. So the order of hour types in this column is going to be counted. So this is to ensure that the system allocates overtime hours to the department to which the person was loaned rather than to the person's home department. Okay, so we'll see an example for this, like how this processing order is being calculated. So, for example, take an engineer. He's working from take an engineer. So I have an engineer. He coming at 7 a.m. He's going at 11 a.m. and he's going at 4 p.m. and again he has a punch at 6 p.m. So what's happening is this person is coming at 7 a.m. Okay, so this engineering is going to work. This engineer is going to work on a project to develop a new application. So this developer is also qualified to teach some employees, or like if say that if your organization has an education department, this person who is working in this company can also go there and he can take some classes for the first 4 hours of the day. So in that case what will happen, is, so there's a department transfer, and so he's going to have a department transfer of 4 hours, and then he has a home account of 6 hours, and there is some OT over here. So you get 4 hours of regular in your transferred account, 4 hours of regular in your labor account, and 2 overtime hours in your home labor account. So this is the default processing order. This is how his process will happen if you don't have any processing order in place. But if you have a processing order, you can tell total your labor transfers at the end. So in that case what happens is, so your department transfer is going to have 6 hours plus an OT over here, like say 9 to 11 there's an OT for 2 hours, so including that there's a department transfer of 4, so it's going to be 6 hours. And your home account is going to have 4 hours. So in my processing order, how I'll achieve this is I'll change what things should be either total first or last. So in my company, it is my company policy that the transferred account should get charged with overtime and not the labor account. So this how we do is we add the labor account transfer in the last, like total last. In this total last, we'll be adding a labor account transfer here. Okay. So you can also use processing orders to total your holidays first. So if you have a daily overtime like over 8 hours and a weekly overtime like over 40 hours, so in that case you can use this processing order. When there is a holiday, you can say the system like calculate the holiday first and then go to the OT. So that is it about processing order. I'll save this. So I'll go to punch interpretation rules. So 1 minute, please. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. I'm getting a call. I'm sorry, just give me one more minute. Okay. So punch interpretation rule is like you can restrict your employees who try to punch in too early or punch in late or punch out late. So we will see an demonstration for this. So suppose my shift is supposed to be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I can punch in at say 7 a.m. or I can punch at 8:30 a.m. 8:30 a.m. So I can either log off at 3:30 p.m. or 5:45 p.m. So um, so how we set this up is I cannot. So if I set up the punch interpretation rules with these values, then what I cannot do is I cannot clock in 1 hour before my scheduled shift. I cannot clock in more than 30 minutes after my scheduled shift, but I can probably leave around 4:45, 15 minutes before my scheduled end, but I cannot leave at 45 minutes after my scheduled end. So these restrictions occur at the terminal and through the quick timestamp, like when you log in and when you log in, sorry, when you use the timestamp button when you log in on the desktop, that is your timestamp, that option, and at the clocks. So you will have to assign a manager, like that manager will have the access to override this restriction, but that's a waste of time for the manager. Like you will have to set somebody to be at the clock always to work, like to override the punches. So so what I'll be saying is my early start restriction is going to be one. My late start restriction is going to be 30. My early end restriction is going to be 130, and my lift early end restriction is going to be 0.15. My late end restriction is going to be 0.45. So what this means is my early start restriction, if it's 1 hour, which means before my scheduled time, 1 hour before my scheduled time, I cannot log off. I cannot clock in. Late start is how many minutes after your scheduled time you can log in. So 30 minutes. So a half an hour after my scheduled time I cannot log in. Early end is 1.5 hours. Like I cannot leave my shift 1.5 hours before my shift end time. And late end is I cannot leave 45 minutes after my shift has ended. So lift early end restriction is like you're just giving a margin, like they can leave 15 minutes before their shift, so they can leave at 4:45 in this example. Okay, so the next thing is um, okay, we'll see the configuration. So there are two types of punch interpretation rules. One is full, the other one is simple. You can see the changes in this page. So so if you use full restrictions for the employees, it will require the supervisors to override when an employee doesn't punch when expected. So full punch restriction specifies that full schedules, like either your early or late in punches, early or late out punches and breaks will be enforced either at the clock or quick timestamp client. No, so normally you use this for minor workers to enforce the law. So you can also use simple punch restriction, which specifies that simple schedules like in punches and late out punches only will be enforced either at the clock or quick timestamp client. So obviously when you're restricting employee punches to punch in, like your punch out or breaks or punch in, the employee must be scheduled for those times. So if you're using a full punch interpretation rule, you have to schedule your employees in, out, and break. So if you're using a simple punch interpretation rule, only your in and out has to be scheduled. So I'll just go over this full thing. I'll explain you what this full this thing is here. So what this full thing says is, um, so it's going to allow overrides. So you have to allow your supervisors to override schedules, or you have to enforce your break options at the terminal only. So you have to keep a manager there always. So your schedule start. So you have to specify early and late start margins to help the system determine whether an in punch is in line with the schedule, or if it is unscheduled, or if it is considered the start of a break. So you also have to specify the restrictions which prevent employees from punching in if they are too early or late for a shift, or if they are unscheduled. Your early start margin specifies how long a employee or the thing before a scheduled start time your employees can punch in and still be assigned to the schedule. Your your late start restrictions, it specifies the duration of time after the start time of a scheduled shift, like we saw on the Excel previously. Your late start margin is going to specify how long after a scheduled start time your employees can punch in and still be assigned to the rule. What is your missed in? So the missed in value helps the system based on duration of time before and after the end of a shift. So it's going to determine whether employees have forgotten to punch in when they return from the break or at the start of a shift. So you have breaks here. Uh, okay, so there's an end margin in missed in, right? So this is going to specify a duration of time before and after the scheduled shift ends. So this is going to enable the system to interpret when employees forgot to punch in when they return from a break or at the start of a shift. Okay, so there are breaks here. You will specify time frames for breaks, whether the times are enforced by the quick timestamp or data collection device. So there's a maximum out, minimum meal. Just give me 1 minute. So you have maximum out, minimum meal, enforced breaks, early start break, late start break, right? So all these specifies time frames for breaks and whether the times are enforced by the quick timestamp or a data collection device. So your maximum out is the maximum amount of time that an employee can punch out for a break. Your minimum meal is the minimum amount of time that is allowed for a meal break. You enforce breaks specifies whether the device is going to enforce your breaks. Your early start break margin is going to specify how long before your scheduled break and meal your employees can punch out. Your late start break margin is going to specify how long after the start of scheduled breaks and meals your employees can punch out. And your late end break margin is going to specify the amount of time after the break or the meal that the employees can still punch back in. So this is for the breaks. So there's another category called scheduled end. So this you can apply as an end restriction to prevent employees from punching out before or after a scheduled end time. So when you do a begin early end restriction, it's going to specify a point in time before the scheduled end of a shift when employees cannot punch out. So if you set this to 24 hours, your employees are not restricted from punching out early. So if you lift early end restrictions, so you will specify a point in time before the end of a scheduled shift when the begin early and end restriction is lifted, and the employee can punch out before the scheduled end time. And your late end restriction is going to define the maximum amount of time after the scheduled end time that the employees can punch out. Your missed out is going to tell you the values that you use in this is going to work out based on the value that you specify here. So when you specify this, the system should consider a punch as a missed out punch or not. So what is the value, like how long should you wait until a person, if he is not punched back, like so how long should you wait? So probably you can say like see for 12 hours and then see if that employee is still not punching out, then yeah, go ahead and mark it as a missed out punch. So there's a missed out limit. So this is going to establish when a missed out punch exception appears on time cards. So any punch after the missed out time starts as a new shift. So to calculate the missed out time for the scheduled employees, you have to add the missed out limit to the scheduled start time. And the last section is your unscheduled. So in unscheduled, you will be specifying the values, like how the system treats punches for unscheduled employees. So you're going to restrict unscheduled in punches. You will be selecting this option to either tell the timestamp or the device to reject in punches from employees who do not have any scheduled shift at all. So you will, in order to enforce that, you will be telling them what is the shift length, like what is the unscheduled shift length. So this is going to establish the end of the shift. Okay, 1 second, sorry. Okay, I'm back. So that is how you set up a full restriction. So I have a demo for you to do. So you'll be doing it for missed out of 12 hours. So that should be a good exercise. So let's go to the next pay policy. That is your sign off restrictions. Okay, so you know what sign off is, right? Have you heard about sign off previously?
No.
Yes. So sign off is like the end process. So when you sign off, you will not be able to make any changes to the time card. So you do sign off so that once everything is checked and once the information is sent to payroll, we can ensure that nobody can touch the time cards. Because if we allow people to touch their time cards, they can edit, they can add extra hours, so it will result in wrong wages. Is it? So we use sign off restrictions for those scenarios. So what this setup means is you're just going to tell if the system has to check for if the system has checked an employee's exceptions, his approvals, his has. So if all of these are complete, if everything has a check mark to it, then it's this time card can be qualified for a sign off. So suppose say that this person is having a missing punch. So in that case, you cannot sign off this employee. So those type of exceptions you're going to create here. So this is sign off is a process that prevents further time card and schedule edits. It also grants final approval to time card before they are processed by payroll. Unexcused, so your exceptions can be your unexcused absences and your missing punches, and you can also check for 0 hours in pay code. So generally it will be regular. So if you have 0 hours in your regular pay code, then stop the pay code. Something wrong has happened, the calculation has not been carried out, so you have to recheck this. So this time card cannot be signed off, and this does not qualify for payroll. So so the setup is very simple. You will be giving a name, sign off restrictions. So to qualify for sign off, a time card cannot contain any unexcused absences for the entire pay period. So an unexcused absence is a day in which the employee is scheduled to work, but the employee's time card does not contain any punches or pay code edits, that excuse the absence. And next you have missing punches. So to qualify for a sign off, a time card cannot contain any missed punches for the entire pay period. And you can also set something for your 0 hours in pay, or you can just leave it at none. But generally they give a regular, because regular is the most basic thing, right? So when you're trying to assess an employee's time card, and if regular is 0, then okay, probably that person might have not worked, but we cannot check it from this end. So when the flag appears, the payroll can go and check it. mm, Sign off. Okay, so that's it about sign off. And that, okay, so we are done with today's timekeeping finally. So this is your payroll setup. So payroll is nothing but a combination of all the pay related items that you have set up after your work rule, including your work rule, and you're just going to tell what all items you need to create a successful payroll. So you have a holidays tab here. You'll be selecting which all holidays that you want to qualify for your holiday credit rule. Did I miss anything else? Payrolls. Okay, that's it. So you can either assign a payroll to the employee for him to get paid, or there are other payroll options, like pay from schedule. If he just has a schedule, you can just pay him, like pay from schedule, apply pay code edits from the employee schedule, or you can do a transfer continuation. Um, you can continue the labor account and the job transfers, like you can use a job transfer to create the house for this person until a new option is created, or you can pre-populate your projected time cards, or you can store scheduled and projected totals. You can do a scheduled time without a transfer. So all these other options are there, but what you can do is you can generally we generally create a payroll to work based on what we have assigned and created. So this is it about payrolls. This cascading profiles I'll be teaching you at the end. This is just optional, but I'll just teach you at the end. Adjustment rules, percent allocation rules, cascading profiles. So I don't know what this is. So yeah, so this is about payrolls. You'll be getting the document tomorrow, so you can start working on your system and you can create a payroll. And if you have any questions, you can let me know. I've added all these steps in it, like what you have to do. You don't have to think about it. Only in the test you will not be having your profiles. So I have another other thing that I wanted to share with you. So there is something called as currency profile. So suppose if you're going to work for different countries, in that case you need to have a base currency, right? So for example, select your base currency as India. Okay, we'll just select INR as our base currency. INR. So suppose I have a country in, sorry, if I have a office in USA, and if I have to check the things there, then I'll just add the exchange rate. I have to Google it and add the exchange rate. So this is how you can define currency. So this, what happens is, when you have this currency selected, you will be able to view this currency in the pay code totals. Otherwise your, so now my totals will be showing as INR, so they'll be showing it in INR. I don't want this, I'll delete this probably. Okay, so this is one more thing I wanted to show to you. Yeah, yeah, that's it about payroll. So I have few topics, like this cascading profiles, duration, pay codes, the wage and percent allocation tools, that I'll do at the end of the course. So next I'll complete accruals in one class, one on 1.5, and then I'll do basic scheduling in 1.5 classes, and then we will see how we are going to set up the system, like how access is given and how to navigate within the system, etc. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then I think we can close today's class with this. This Wednesday, I'll be able to join only at 9, so we'll have class from 9 to 9:45. I have a meeting till
Okay.
9, so I'll join around 9:05 or something on Wednesday. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye.
The Saturday plan, when will you know?
Uh,
Friday
on
only, right?
Saturday, yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.